Hi, I'm Suzanne Anderson, a psychologist, an executive coach, and the co-author of the book, The Way of the Mysterial Woman, Upgrading How You Live, Love, and Lead. And welcome to this 5th video in my series. This is on the Crone Wound. And if you're finding your way to this video without having seen any of the other 4, then first of all, I'm going to recommend you might consider seeing the others first, because this is a sequence and each gate is opened in a particular order. But if you want to just go right ahead and watch this one, let me just lay out a bit of the context first. The research that I spent 15 years doing, along with many other wonderful faculty, was to decode a developmental pathway for women that could begin to unlock the next level of what I think of as our evolutionary capacity. And this ended up revealing a pathway that was actually based on the way that women develop from when we're really young until our elderhood. And each of the 5 gates represents a point in the developmental cycle when either a feminine yin or masculine yang essence actually lit up. And then the relationship we had to that yin or yang essence shaped the way that we saw the world, and then the capacities that we actually had to navigate in the world. So the Mysterial Sequence actually goes back over that developmental pathway in order to liberate each of these yin and yang essences and ultimately set free this way of being I call mysterial, but really which is the expression of all of our feminine and masculine essences co-arising together in this just exquisite way of being that is a match for these times. So what you have already seen, if you've gone through the other videos, and I'm just going to quickly cover this now so you can understand it if you're just watching the Crone here without those videos. We see it the mother. This is the phase where we cultivate the connection to the ground of our feminine being. We sort of wrap our loving arms around ourselves, and we emerge with a sense of our own radiant presence. We are enough just as we are. And then the energetic masculine energy at the other end of this yin-yang polarity, the hero rises up, our champion, able to take us into the world to achieve the goals we want to achieve, to initiate projects, to be the advocate for whatever it is that we're here to bring into the world. And then we go to the 3rd gate, the father, and all things going well, we create the structures and the systems that we need. We have order, and we sort of claim our own true authority there as sovereign queens of our own domain. And then from the other end of that, yang father archetype, the maiden lights up, and this is our ability to find the passionate creativity that is willing to challenge the status quo, to shake things up, to dance with that energy of the father, the order and structure at one end, but not be limited by that. And this is already a lot. We have then at the end of this kind of see this as a kind of infinity loop, and you can see the diagram for this in our book that lays it out. Well, that's already a lot to have made contact with each of these yin and yang essences. But now what we're going to cover and look at now is the 5th essence that lights up once those 4 have actually been cultivated in a healthy way. And this is more than just a linear progression to a 5th gate. And in the model itself, you'll see in the book, the move to the crone actually is a quantum leap. There's a kind of synthesizing quality to this energy when it comes in that is distinct from any of the other gates before it. Now, the Crone gate is a yin archetype, just like the mother and the maiden are. But this one, for the first time actually, in this yin essence, there's the ability to bring together yang. So you could say this face of the feminine has the capacity to also connect with the fiery hero and the stabilizing father. And in one way, you could say this part of ourselves, when it comes on board, it is a kind of mediating influence. It helps us discern when we use which of those other essences. There's a kind of wisdom that comes online, lets us do that. And that's an enormous shift. So one of the other things that happens when the crone comes in a healthy way, she brings the capacity to what we talk about as, say, truth to power. She knows how to do that and is unflinching in her ability to do that. But she uses a sword. Sometimes I like to think of it like a sword that cuts together. It's not a sword that just randomly hacks things off. It's a sword that has a purpose. And when things cut, they cut for the sake of the good. There's a kind of compassion in what she sometimes has to indeed cut away. Sort of fierce and compassionate at the same time. And of course, the crone gives us the capacity, as we might imagine, to be in the dark, to be with chaos and uncertainty. This is a profound move forward when we are not afraid of things falling apart, when we have the ability to see in the dark, when we know that death is inevitable, when we know that loss is inevitable. Then we have a way of living in the moment now, because we are not afraid of the cycles of life and death. That natural turn, as we see, of course, in nature. So the crone gives us the crone, as a developmental move, gives us the ability to both have this compassionate heart, but also have the broken, open heart. Kind of like the illusion falls away that everything has to be good all the time, and that bad things don't happen to good people. If you do the right thing and you do it well, your life should just happen, it should all be good. There's a humbling that happens here when this essence comes in, and you know that breakdowns and failure can be breakthroughs, and you have the ability to go through those in a way that allow for that transformation to happen. So she's an alchemical force, you could say, right, the crone. Well, let's look at, however, what the crone wound, because we want this energy. First of all, I can say that the crone is as the last sort of tumbler in the lock that opens the pathway to the mysterial. It is an essential gathering point before the opening of the mysterial. The channel is opened, is what we found when this last gate came in. And over the years of running our programs, it took us actually quite a long time to feel comfortable with this kind of potent, fierce energy. And we stumbled around for a while until, as women in some of the earlier programs would probably attest to, until we could actually understand more of what was trying to come in, both individually and culturally. What was this energy? And to respect it. Respect, first of all, that it has never had the time, it has never been its time to fully come in before, but it absolutely is now. We say that this essence, the crone essence that's coming in, is the needed ingredient in culture herself. Like this face of the feminine, this wise, loving, and powerful face of the feminine is important to be able to steward this evolutionary wave that's just cresting now, starting to sort of be in the, we're all starting to be in the rock and tumble phase of that wave coming in. So it is her time, but of course for that healthy crone to come in, we have to have all the other gates open. This is what we discovered. If we tried to bring it in too soon, it was way too powerful in energy. And either people just backed away from it, or it was very confusing. But once the other yin and yang essences are really clearly opened in the body, in the heart, in the mind, then the crone is almost like she wants to come in. She's longing to come in now. And certainly, as I've said, we need her and we need this energy. But we've seen this wise woman try to come in at other times in culture. It's and kind of nudged its way to the surface, but not very successfully. We've seen her presence, the presence of this archetype in indigenous cultures that honored the not only the women, but the men who worked with herbs and listened to voices beyond this physical dimension, and helped people cross over to when they died, and had rites of passage that young people went through and honored those rites of passage. Of course, we've lost a lot of those voices in the elimination of many of the traditional practices and tribes in the world. And of course, we also know that in the 15th to the 17th century, we had unimaginable in a certain way to us today, burning, the Inquisition that came in, and the burning and hanging and drowning of women in Europe through both Puritanism and the Inquisition. And 5 million women, I believe, is something like this. 5 million women basically taken out over that 300-year period of time, which is something like 16,667 women a year killed simply for being women. And even women getting into old age could be, that could be a crime. That could be reason for burning at the stake, the assumption that then they were dangerous. So this energy's been kind of, people have been afraid of it for a long time, this witch energy. They haven't understood it. And when it's tried to come in before, it has been quickly repressed. We saw it also, as the mind and heart and intuitive knowings of women start to light up. They would bring that into the world. But then in I think it was the 11th century, we saw the universities actually determine that women no longer could be a part of universities. Well, took them out of that stream. And then when jobs, some of the higher order jobs required a university degree, well, of course, women weren't going to be there. And then the other way we sort of see the crone, the demonizing of the crone in the way that women aging is, and certainly in Western culture, considered something that shouldn't be even accepted. But we use all of the Botox and all the various other things to try to avoid aging that's happening in ourselves. And then in the patriarchy, there's the minimalizing and shoving over to the side women that no longer are sexually appealing, that aren't the mother or the maiden. We don't want them anymore. The wisdom that they bring, their own embodied sensuality and contribution to community is just shuffled off into the dark closet. So we really have to do something with this. We have to now face this directly, and as women be willing to bring this energy in. And when we were doing this work, there were some complaints about the word, the crone, couldn't change it because that wasn't a very attractive word. And let's say I felt rather strong all the way along about this, that no, we need to, this is the word. This actually means wise woman. And the fact that it's a little gnarly, and the fact that you don't like it, and the fact that it's pushing against the mainstream in culture is okay by me, because we need to give her the room and not try to dial her down so that she's politically correct. The limiting belief here at this gate is, I don't have enough knowledge, connections, or influence. I am not potent. I am not to be taken seriously. Well, that really needs to shift. And when the work is really done, and the shadow work is done, and all the gates before it are cleared up, then what arises in the body is the liberating belief of, I am an evolving source of wisdom, love, and power. Now try that one on for a moment. Just let that one in. I am an evolving source. I don't need to know it all. Of wisdom, of love, of power. I am a channel. That means that I am open to the mystery. I am willing to unfold the emergent. I do not need to know it all. But if you're operating with that limiting belief, and you can just feel into that again, I don't have enough knowledge. Don't ask me, I don't know enough. Connections, I don't know the right people. Or influence, I'm not the one. If that's running in you, and just feel for a moment whether it might be, then this voice, this alchemical kind of authenticity, the willing to show up with a fierce compassion, be the change agent, actually, the transformer herself, who is here to guide us into the next phase of our evolution. Well, then that's not going to be easy to do. So let's see if we can do then a couple of practices that I can give you now, as I have in all the other videos, that can just get you started to open this energy up. Even the very conversation about her, I hope, has you a bit unsettled, has you in the question about how much are you keeping this energy out right now. I will just say, by the way, that when I was speaking in Europe last year, actually, I guess it was this year, at the Big Women's Leadership Conference, the WIN conference in Rome, I met a lot of millennials, and after I finished speaking, a number of them came up to me and were thrilled to hear about this Crone energy and recognize it already lighting up in them. Now, this is really interesting to me because, of course, we can see this in the developmental cycle. The Crone really comes in her fullness later in life. But when this energy starts to arise in women earlier on, it's something. And we are seeing that in some of our young women. And I want them to see a model. I want you, if you're listening to this video, to see a model of leadership in the world that actually includes this wisdom you're bringing in right now, that includes your way of channeling power and includes your understanding of love and how to love and be loved. Okay, so a couple of practices. The first one is the self-observation practice. So for this, again, you are simply watching to see how the limiting belief of the Crone is working in you day to day. When you are activated or stirred up, emotionally disturbed, just check in and see, how is this belief? I don't have enough knowledge, connections, or influence. How is this belief steering you through it? So you just observe. The very act of observing can begin to get you a little bit detached from what's operating in the unconscious, because these beliefs operate deep, deep in the cellular structure. As I've already said, this has been passed down through the millennia, no doubt reinforced in your own lifetime. But we're carrying this in our DNA. That means it's in the unconscious. We're going to have to get it surfaced. So that's the first step, there's the self-observing. And the very observing, then you might just see, can you shift over and just take on 2% more of, I am an evolving source of wisdom, love, and power. And see how that shifts how you are in the circumstance that you're in the middle of. All right. And then the second practice is a practice for being with the mystery, which is a very critical part of the Crone's wisdom, actually. She knows how to do that. And this is a practice called simply being with what is. And if you did the Maiden's practice, which is the gate right before this one, with flow, then this is a good warm-up for being with what is. In a similar way, what I'm asking you to do is choose a period of time, maybe 2 hours during your day. And ideally, you're in the middle of the day that you normally have. So you don't need to carve out special time for this. But the goal is not to resist anything that arises. This is being with what is. Doesn't mean you might not change it after you experience it, but to resist what is arising is not wise. The Crone knows that. This is what is. So why am I resisting it? Especially if I want to change it. First, I have to accept that this is happening. So there's no should involved. This shouldn't have happened to me. This should be different in some way. Let's say you go to work and you're you're driving your car and someone cuts you off, and immediately there's this sense of like, hey, how could you do that? But what if you, rather than do that, you don't resist it? This just happened. This person just drove in front of me. It is what it is. I respond in the way I respond in the moment. It doesn't send my day into being a bad day, which, you know, can happen. Oh, well, I got cut off this morning at work. That's why I'm in a bad mood all day. No, it just is what it is. I veer away. I get in another lane. I get to work. Somebody spills coffee on my desk. Okay, I clean it up. I deal with it. Somebody says a positive comment to me. I let it in. I accept it. I'm not making stories up about it. I'm just being with what is for the whole 2 hours. Give yourself a period of time so you can actually assess what this is like. And see what happens when you do not resist what is. What I think you'll experience is the resistance wanting to arise. And when it does arise, I invite you just to relax it. It's not wrong that it arises. We're very habitually wired for this to happen, but just relax it so that you can have the experience of not doing that and see how much energy you save when you are not resisting what is actually present in the moment. Great practice for opening to the mystery, for cultivating the alchemical authenticity of the crone. All right, well, I want to just close here with it's a brief poem by a man named Albert Hofstadter, but it's the most beautiful description of a capacity of the crone. It's called The Edge of Doubt. And he says, there is always that edge of doubt. Trust it. That's where the new things come from. If you can't live with it, get out. Because when it's gone, you're on automatic, repeating something you've learned. Let your prayer be, save me from that tempting certainty that leads me back from the edge, that dark edge where the first light breaks. Save me from that tempting certainty that leads me back from the edge, that dark edge where the first light breaks. Thank you for exploring the Crone Wound with me. Hope this has been helpful for you, and I hope that you'll comment on the blog site. I'd love to hear your own experiences of Crone Wound, maybe ways you are already starting to bring this archetype online now. And I hope that you'll consider going a little bit deeper, because of course, you know, it's not terribly popular to say, but the work required to liberate the full essence from any of these gates actually requires us to go down in and do the shadow work. And it's good work, it's deep work, it's extremely potent work. And I do this in the starting course that I run is the Mysterial Leadership Essentials course. That's a 10-week online course that you can actually begin to awaken each of these essences and set them spinning in the unconscious, so that the work can actually, the channel itself can start to open. And I hope you'll consider joining me in one of those. Or of course, you can also get the book. I spent a lot of time working on that book so that it would be available for people to already get going and do practices without needing to meet me personally. But I do hope I have the chance to encounter you, and I deeply invite you to join in our mysterial murmuration. Thank you, and bye for now.